Welcome back to Nigeria, the road to 2019. I'm Charles Aniekolu. Now, he's been described as a sort of political, intellectual, non-sectarian liberal in a country that's almost and perhaps self-defeatingly institutionalized the sectarian divide. A man who is devotedly not a subscriber to any political orthodoxy, who thinks that there is a solution to Nigeria's problems, but is certainly not prepared to ascribe it to any of the political parties or career politicians out there, or is he? Well, he is certainly the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association and founder of one of Nigeria's foremost human rights groups, the Civil Liberties Organization, or CLO, Olisa Agbakoba, who is also, of course, a senior advocate of Nigeria. And Olisa is still with me here in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Yes. Now, you've been fighting for this country and for the downtrodden people of this country for decades. And you, it is fair to say, have the scars, maybe not on your face, but you have the scars to prove it as one of the key leaders of Nigeria's pro-democracy movement and founder of this country's foremost human rights organization, the Civil Liberties Organization, or CLO, arrested many times over the years, especially during military rule, and interrogated. How much has all this come at tremendous cost to yourself?
Oh, great cost. Great cost. But you see, as I said to my wife, when the whole thing was over, I said, did I go through this? It's unbelievable. It was like, it's like
a movie.
Absolutely. When guys say, I went on the mountain, the Spirit drove me up there. That's what drove me. I didn't know what happened. I was just committed, pushed the cause, conscientious, no batting of my eyes, pushing.
And surely one of the most difficult times would have to be around that June 12th annulment of the election.
Yeah, because then was the apogee of what we were doing. There was President Babangida, President Buhari, wanting an agenda to stay. See, that's when it's most difficult. President Buhari wants an agenda to stay. Babangida wants an agenda to stay. What does he do? He annuls June 12th to get the possibility of continuing. So that was the most brutal time. We were brutalized, sent to prison, passports taken, but we pulled it off. Unfortunately, we lost MKO. The mistake we did make, I must say, is failing to take the strategic decision to go into politics in 1999.
Because my next logical question was, do you still have, well, I don't know if I say still, do you have any political ambitions?
Political ambitions in the context of Nigeria is difficult. To be.
Well, you could have the ambition, but not be prepared to fulfill that ambition or to pursue it.
I would like to be president.
Yeah.
Because it's clear that when I look at these guys, I say, why is it so difficult? I can turn Nigeria in 6 months. I'm not kidding.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that if you ever became president.
Oh, yeah. It's so
6 months. Make a note.
It's also simple. If you know what to do, if you get into office and you hit the ground running, you'll do it.
Nevertheless, you were often seen as being non-partisan and fiercely independent. Are you still that way today? Because there are those who accuse you of being more partisan today than you used to be. I mean, are you still very far apart from most politicians, whichever side of the political divide they're on?
I belong to no party. 1, 2. I follow what drives my conscience, and my conscience is driven by the Constitution, governance principles, democratization. Whoever is going to push for this, I'm with him. So I could be speaking for, sometimes there are things that the present government does that I like, and I will say so. But there are many things they do wrong, and I say so. So right now, to be honest with you, we would not have that ideal political party that I would say, oh yes, I'd like to sign up. We don't have it.
But you have individuals, because you mentioned Atiku.
Yes, so we have it. I mentioned Atiku in the context of the challenge we face.
In other words, in the land of the blind, he's got one eye.
In the land of the blind, when Jonathan was there, Buhari had one eye.
Right.
That's what I see. Because it's going to take a lot to dislodge President Buhari. It's going to take a lot. And the only strong man, the heavy lifter, is Atiku.
Well, Buhari is an extremely determined man. I mean, they kept knocking him down, and he kept coming back until he got what he wanted.
4 times.
And he's not just going to give it up.
Absolutely not. And that statement at the NBA is a signal of where he intends to go.
What gave you, let's just talk a bit about yourself. What gave you the impact that you've had on Nigerian society? Is it your personal background and story as a son of a former chief judge? Is it your personal sacrifice and heroism, if I could call it that? The fact that you're a sort of maverick critic of Nigerian politics, one of the people who's genuinely willing to buck the leadership of this country when you thought it was right to do so, or a combination of all of the above, or none of the above?
All of the above. Background of, as you said, a judicial background. So I learned very early about the rule of law. Remember, I used to read judgments from my old man that he would deliver, you know. So I understood these things very early. I was also, unfortunately, a prisoner of war in Biafra. So I was in prison and had early experience of life in prison.
What were you doing in prison?
I was a Biafran soldier at 13.
You're joking.
I was a Biafran soldier at 13.
Now that's another part of you that I had no idea.
Absolutely. So I was put in prison as a state security.
You mean by the Nigerians?
By the Biafrans.
Okay.
Yes.
Why would they do that to you?
Well, I don't know. I was at Ntoeke with Professor Chikobi, Danny Bekwe, Fiburisima, Nigerian POWs were all there.
So you were a child soldier?
I was a child soldier.
And you carried weapons and
yes,
you went to battle?
The Shibarator. Ntoeke was where I was, and then I was at Nguzada, Arochukwu zone of the war. I was in Immortal Battalion, BA 8338411. That was my number. So that cooked me up. Judicial background, army background, in prison.
How did your father ever allow you to go into the Biafran?
I was conscripted.
Right, okay.
When
At 13?
At 13, when Biafran.
Extraordinary.
If you read this lady's book, Chimamanda,
right.
that's me in the book. And I later told that if you had told me about Half of a Yellow Sun, I would have vivified it for you, because
Right.
I saw myself in the book. Yeah. So all of that put my experiences together. So by 1970, I really wanted to continue in the army, but old man didn't want me to do so. And then when I started law practice, immediately I had, a very direct personal experience with people in prison. Flashback to Biafra, taking me into human rights, and that was the rest is history.
Absolutely extraordinary story. I mean, people don't usually, though, warm to mavericks. I mean, it's not typical for them to warm to mavericks. Why do you think they warmed to you? I mean, was there perhaps a sense that you were not an attention seeker, not someone trying to be idiosyncratic or quixotic, but someone driven by sort of genuine conviction and principle?
Yes.
So whether or not anybody agreed or disagreed with you, they had no choice but to respect the sincerity of your conviction.
If you stay in the middle, you draw people. I was never a hardline Marxist or a socialist. The human rights movement was populated by hardline socialists. Actually, in the human rights movement, I was known as one of us from the crazy right. So I refer to them as the loony left. So as a crazy writer, I make no strong statements. So you're able to weave your way from the left and to the right. I was able to also weave my way from human rights to business, to law. So I had a full view of how you should project issues in a non-partisan way. That's the way to succeed. But if you go on a very strong Trump type, agenda, you make a lot of enemies.
And on that note of advice, I have to say, sadly, that we're out of
Oh,
time. But
great.
it's been fascinating talking with
How
you.
happy
Olisa
to come.
Agbakoba,
Thank you very
of
much.
course, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association and also the founder of the Civil Liberties Organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Well, that's it for this edition of Nigeria, The Road to 2019. Join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching. Good.